Even as far back as Dragon Ball, gods have always been a thing, but we really didn't know just how important they were in the grand scheme of things as far as the show goes. Then, as the series progressed, we were introduced to even higher levels of the gods, all the way up into the highest tier. So I thought it would be a good idea to try and explain the levels of the gods, where they fall in their order, as well as what role they play and serve in the universe. This is Dragon Ball Super's Gods Explained. This is normally where I just flash up at the screen that says please subscribe, but we are almost up to 1,000 subscribers, and if you guys would just hit that subscribe button and help me get there, it would be so appreciated. So the first level of gods we have in the Dragon Ball universe is actually the Guardians. So Guardians are the lowest level of the deity, basically overseeing individual planets. Like many of the other gods on this list, Guardians are actually not immortal, though they are kind of long-lived. At least we think they are, since we've only ever actually seen Nameks be Guardians, and quite frankly, Nameks already live a long time, so we really don't know what their lifespan is. Also, in appearance-wise, they can pretty much be anything and anyone, so we can't even really base a certain appearance for these ones, as they are generally chosen from those living on their individual planets, but it doesn't necessarily have to be from that planet, i.e. a Namek is always the guardian for Earth. So strength-wise, they're generally stronger than the mortals on their planet, but that's really more of in a spiritual sense, as in, like, Kami was the strongest character we had seen in Dragon Ball, but he was very quickly overtaken by Goku and Piccolo. Like a lot of the gods on this list, they don't actually need to be the strongest in their planet in order to be their guardian. They just have to fulfill the guardian role. But overseeing the Guardians, we actually have the Kais. So in all universes, there are 5 cardinal Kais. There's North, South, East, and West, and each of them oversee the planet's guardians in a particular area of the universe. Now, unlike Guardians, Kais are not chosen from the mortals. They are actually born on a planet called the World Core, and they come from giant trees called Kaiju trees. Though we never actually see this process in the series, Kais are also not immortal, with their lifespan being around 75,000 years unless they are killed before then. Now, Kais also live on small planets in the Otherworld. So Otherworld being the location you go when you die in Dragon Ball. There is technically a heaven, there is technically a hell, but then there's like kind of a space in between where if you were pure of heart and you've done a lot for like the world when you were alive, you get to keep your body. And sometimes when you keep your body, you'll get to go and train with the Kais. So appearance-wise, all Kais have a human-looking body, although their skin will kind of be different colors. They all have pointed ears and 2 long antennae sticking out of their head. They all wear robes with the kanji for Kai on the chest, though the robes can vary in color and shape. And now, Kais are typically stronger than your average mortals, as well as the planet Guardians. However, like the planet Guardians, they might not be the strongest in their section of the universe, to the point where individually they don't seem to be capable of handling like greater threats. However, this also might be because they don't interfere with the natural flow of their universe, only intervening when it is absolutely necessary. Now, this doesn't mean they will do nothing, as they have been seen to give kind of advice, as well as train the other fighters, like I said. However, an area where they all excel at for sure is actually in telepathy, and they're able to send messages literally across the universe using their minds. But overseeing the Kais, we actually have the Grand Kai. So the Grand Kai is the king of the 4 cardinal Kais, overseeing them and making sure they stay in line. He also teaches the fallen warriors if they are deemed worthy enough, and the one Grand Kai we are introduced to has a teaching style kind of similar to Master Roshi, being more of a laid-back figure and treating everyone as equals. And as far as we know, like the other Kais, the Grand Kai is not immortal and will have a similar lifespan. We also don't really know if there's any special fruit like Supreme Kais that the Grand Kai would come from. Could just be that a fruit that was particularly ripe or good whenever it was grown becomes a Grand Kai, or a Grand Kai is just the strongest of Kais being born at the time, and he's chosen to lead. We really don't get any real reference as to how he is particularly chosen. But what we do know, though, is the Grand Kai live on much larger planets than the other Kais, and it is his own planet, and that is where he trains the universe's greatest warriors. Appearance-wise, the one Grand Kai we've seen actually differed rather greatly from the rest of the Kais. As like I said, the one we see looks almost human, however he does have pointed ears and he does not have any antenna. We also see him dressing more like a hipster, however we do see him in robes similar to the other Kais, except he wears a hat with the kanji for grand on it, and then he has the Kai logo on his robes. The Grand Kai is one of the strongest beings in the galaxy, being stronger than all of the other Kais. However, we do see that he is weaker than Pikkon and Super Saiyan Goku, and that he actually got that way because he had been really lax in his training. So this does kind of say that Kais also need to train to maintain their level of strength. That being said though, even though he was lax in his training, he still outsped Goku, winning a race that Goku had started way later than the other two participants had actually taken off. So here I do actually need to hit on a couple of things before we move on to the next level. So one, there should be an entire planet of Kais that we actually never get to see, which kind of sucks because it would be kind of nice to go see the Kai's planet. Two, we actually do know a little bit about how the Kais are chosen to be a cardinal Kai, because there is a planet of Kais. Essentially, when a Kai dies, the other Kais are supposed to draw lots to see who replaces them, even though we never actually see this happen in the story, because when King Kai dies, he just kind of remains the Kai, even though they do bring him back to life. So theoretically, there should have been another North Kai chosen, but we never actually get to see that happen. He just kind of goes back to being the Kai of that particular section of the universe. So it's a little hit or miss as to whether or not that process even goes on. But what it does kind of say is like Kais may not necessarily want to be a Cardinal Kai. Some of them might just be lazy and not want to do anything. So that would be kind of an interesting aspect to see that we never actually get to see in Dragon Ball. But that's the setup for an individual galaxy. But after this, we can actually leave galaxies and go on to the universal level. And the first level we have on the universal level is actually the Supreme Kais. Supreme Kais are the creation gods of the universe, providing the catalyst for life and planets to form. Basically, they're the opposites of the gods of destruction, with the two being tied together. They also watch over the living and the other world, being over the regular Kais. However, like most of the deities on this list, they don't tend to interfere with the mortals' affairs unless the threat is significant enough. And they will also not interfere if mortals are able to handle the threat. So the information is a little confusing as to the number of Supreme Kais, but what we can kind of infer is that the size of the universe will determine the number of Supreme Kais in a universe, with Universe 7 having a North, South, East, and West Supreme Kai. Other universes will only have 3 Kais, 1 Grand Supreme Kai, 1 Supreme Kai, and 1 in kind of a stasis in case something happens to the other 2. So it's a little hit or miss as to how many Supreme Kais a universe will have. So like all the other Kais, the Supreme Kais are born on the world core, although they only come from rare golden apples on the kaiju trees. And like the rest of the Kais, Supreme Kais are not immortal, although their lifespan is around 5 million years on average. So they can live longer, but 5 million years is the average. Unlike regular Kais, all Supreme Kais live on one planet known as the Sacred World of a Kai, and the regular Kai are not actually allowed to set foot on that planet, unless they are chosen to become a Supreme Kai. See, there are many different types of Supreme Kai, and I don't have time to get into all of that in this video, so leave a like and a comment down if you want me to actually go further in depth on that. But it is possible for an exceptionally strong Kai to become a Supreme Kai. So in appearance, Supreme Kais have very different bodies, shapes, and sizes. They can also come in a multitude of skin and hair color. However, they will all have spiky mohawks of some kind. Their ears are pointed, and they all wear some variation of the same robe. They also wear Patara earrings with the color representing their rank. All Supreme Kais are exceptionally strong, with the Supreme Kai of Universe 7 being said to be stronger than Namek Saga Frieza. However, their strength can vary greatly from there, and they can also be weaker than some mortals in their own universe, which is kind of a running trend in Dragon Ball. And then watching over the Supreme Kais, we actually have the Grand Supreme Kai, or the Dai Kaioshin. So the Grand Supreme Kai pretty much performs the same functions as the Grand Kai. They rule over the other Supreme Kais and ensure they perform their duties needed for the universe. There is also no difference that we know of in how a Grand Supreme Kai is born. He could be from a riper golden apple, or just be an exceptionally strong Supreme Kai. Or he could just be the last Kai standing in that universe. It just kind of depends. He also has a similar lifespan to the other Supreme Kais, so there's not really that much of a difference between them. He is just stronger. And he's not even always stronger, so it's kind of confusing. He also does not have his own planet, living with the rest of the Supreme Kais on the Sacred World of the Kais. So appearance-wise, they pretty much look like all the other Kais. However, they will sometimes have more of like an exalted wardrobe. For instance, the Daikaiotion that we see in Universe 7 wears a cape. And like I touched on a little bit ago, the Grand Supreme Kai is usually stronger than the Kais they rule over, being exceptionally talented in magic, though sometimes they are not as strong as the mortals in their own universe, and sometimes not even stronger than the other Kais in their universe. So their power can range from Mammoth level Frieza all the way to Moro in strength, and it just kind of depends on the Kai. It's kind of frustrating. Once again, I just need to touch in on a couple of things before we move on to the next levels. So it is not just one Supreme Kai that is attached to the God of Destruction. I know the anime makes it kind of seem like it is. God of Destruction is actually tied to all of these Supreme Kais for that universe, and as long as at least one Supreme Kai is left alive, the God of Destruction will not die, which is probably why in most universes they'll have 2 active Kais and then 1 Kai kind of in a dormant state until in case something happens to the other 2. But now we can get into the counterpart of the Supreme Kais, that being the God of Destruction. Now, technically in the universal scale, the Gods of Destruction and the Supreme Kais are on the same level, since they are the universal opposites of each other. Every universe has only one God of Destruction, and they're tasked with the destruction of planets, races, or threats to the growth of the universe. Now, this doesn't mean that they are evil, though most of them are pretty arrogant, but there is a whole other reason for that, and they are actually necessary for the growth of a universe. Without death, you can't have life, so the two have to come hand in hand. Now, unlike the Kais and the angels, who are born divine beings, Gods of Destruction actually don't have to be, and though they can be chosen from the ranks of the divine, they can also be chosen from the mortals, a lot like the planet guardians. So due to this, they're actually not immortal, though they do live very long lives. We actually do not know how long they can live for. And this might be because they're connected to the Kais, who already have extremely long lifespans. So it's entirely possible that their lifespan is just the lifespan of the Kais that they are connected to. Though that does kind of muddy the waters a little bit, seeing as there's multiple Kais. So they could live as long as the youngest Kai, or if the Kais get replaced and then grow, we really just don't know. We haven't actually seen one die, and we actually haven't even seen one step down, though we have seen Gods of Destruction in training. So we know that they do step down eventually, and we really don't know what will happen to them after that. Kind of just assume they'll either pass away or just become mortal and live out the rest of like a mortal life. Gods of Destruction all live and train on their own planetoid, usually a flat with a large central castle that, although is in the living space, would appear to be outside of the universe, since Granola doesn't seem to have surpassed Beerus that we know of, because Granola actually never saw Beerus, but he did wish to be the strongest in the universe at that time. So theoretically, he did actually surpass Lord Beerus at that moment, but we never actually get to see that. And since Frieza kind of got around that by being in a hyperbolic time chamber, it's entirely possible that Beerus's palace is just not in the actual universe. Appearance-wise, they can vary a lot, since they come from any race in the universe, but they all wear the same clothing, looking like Egyptian pharaohs, usually having really puffy pants with a belt tied around the waist in a way that a long tongue with different shapes on it will hang down to near their knees. They do not wear shirts, but do wear a sash over their shoulders. Now, Gods of Destruction are usually the second strongest beings in their universe, with only their assigned angels surpassing them in power. Due to this, many of them will actually be pretty arrogant and develop really arrogant personalities, because no one is willing to tell the Destroyer Gods no, except for their angels. Now, as of recording this video, we have not actually seen a God of Destruction use their full power, and since they are not allowed to fight each other, we possibly never will, though Black Frieza might actually provide the first real challenge to Lord Beerus, but we haven't actually got to see that in the manga yet. Now, I said the Destroyers and the Supreme Kais were opposites from each other, but their existence is actually also tied to one another, and I know I've hit on this a little bit in the previous videos. But basically what that means is one cannot live without the other. If the Destroyer God dies, the Supreme Kais will also cease to exist. Now, that's all the Supreme Kais that the Destroyer is connected to. And if all of the Supreme Kais die, then the Destroyer will cease to exist. Basically, one cannot live without the other, because they are the forces of the universe. But now we can get into the Gods of Destruction's teachers, the Angels. Boom. Quick wardrobe change, but now we're back into things. So the Angels' job in the multiverse is relatively simple. They act as the teachers and caretakers to the Gods of Destruction, as well as their guides, and making sure they carry out their duties. Angels also play an active role in choosing the next god of destruction. They don't necessarily seek out their god's replacement, but they keep an eye out for mortals that are strong enough and show potential. When they find one of these mortals, they will train them as well as the Destroyer, basically molding them to be the next god of destruction. We don't know how angels are born, although they are all children of the Grand Minister, who we will get to in just a minute, but we don't know if they actually have a mother or if he just creates them by himself. That being said, the angels are pretty much immortal, with only known ways for one to die being if they violate the angels' laws. The caveat to this being if they are ordered to do so by their god of destruction. Now, if an angel violates the laws, they will simply be erased, like they will just kind of stop existing. But if their god tells them to do something, then they can just kind of get away with it. It's sort of a huge loophole, but I think it's mostly there to keep training angels kind of at bay from overusing their power. That being said, though, death for them isn't exactly permanent because they can actually come back as mortals once they've been erased, so they just won't have their god power anymore. Now, the last thing that can happen to an angel is if their god of destruction dies without a replacement, the angel will go dormant until another god of destruction is chosen. Angels all live on their god of destruction's worlds, although they actually come from and can go back to the angels' realm where their home planet is. Now, we've never seen this home planet, but we do know that it exists. All angels share a similar appearance, all of them looking mostly human, and their facial traits and heights can vary wildly. However, they all have pale blue skin, violet eyes, and white hair, styled pretty much however they like. They also all have a halo which will hang around their neck. They all dress in robes with designs similar to their gods of destruction. Angels are the strongest beings in the universe, which really makes sense since they have to teach their destroyers. They also possess other abilities to help them in that task, like turning back time, to fix any accidental problems their destroyers cause, and the ability to warp travel. A good example of this is when we see Whis knock out Beerus in one hit when he got out of control. Angels are also constantly using Ultra Instincts, so they are really hard to attack, naturally avoiding, dodging, and attacking without actually having to think about it. And I did a whole Ultra Instinct video. You guys can check it out by clicking a card somewhere or just going and finding it on my channel. Now, the last two that I'm going to talk about in this video are actually a little bit out of order, since the Grand Minister is stronger than Zeno, but I think it just fits better here since he is the father of the angels. So like I just said, the Grand Minister is the father of all the angels and is tasked with overseeing them in their tasks, but also acts as the caretaker and teacher to the Omni King or Grand Zeno. As the father of the angels, we don't know exactly how the Grand Minister came to be, but can sort of infer he might be subjected to the same laws and rules as his children, though we cannot really confirm this. It could very well be that since he made the rules, they just don't apply to him. Seeing as he is the attendant to the second strongest being in the universe other than himself, the odds of him going dormant are actually very slim, so we have no real way of knowing exactly what it takes to kill this guy or how long he lives. It's possible that they just kind of keep on going, but we really don't know. So the Grand Minister lives with Zeno at his palace, and like the angels, comes from the angel realm and their home planet. Appearance-wise, he is very similar to his children, with the same hair, eye, and skin color. However, his halo floats above his head, and he wears a blue, kind of like jumpsuit, tucked into a belt with the kanji for grand on it. So like I said before, the Grand Minister is the strongest being in all of the multiverse that we have been introduced to so far. He far outmatches every god of destruction, angel, and Kai, with all of them bowing to him in respect and following his every command. Beerus actually cowered away from him just for him frowning at him, and Goku could tell just from his mere presence that he was incredibly powerful. That being said, we don't have any real feats of strength from him, but since he performs the same role as angels to Zeno, and Zeno can erase the entire universe, we can kind of infer that he is at least stronger than that. So if Zeno can erase the entire universe, he's just stronger than a man who can erase an entire universe. But that actually brings us really good into the final level of the gods, the Omni King, Grand Zeno. So Zeno is the ruler of the multiverses, overseeing the current 12 universes. We don't know how Zeno came into being or how long he can live. He could just be immortal, but since technically none of the other deities in Dragon Ball are. He could just have a long life, and we really just don't know. He also acts very childish, so it could be that he is actually still a child, but we don't see any parents, so this is just kind of all speculation. Zeno lives in his own palace that is located somewhere outside of the multiverse, or maybe in a particular universe. We don't really know the exact location of his palace. But we do know that it is a white palace sitting on top of a jellyfish-looking creature. If it is even a creature, it could just be some type of planetoid. We just don't really know. Appearance-wise, though, Zeno is short and small with a large oval-shaped head, kind of, like I said, like a little child. He has blue skin with 2 sections from his ears to the middle of each eye on both sides of his head, which are purple. He has small round eyes and ears, if you could call those things ears. His main attire is magenta and yellow lined coat with yellow pants and magenta shoes. He wears a black and white shirt underneath with the kanji for all on the front because he is the all-powerful being. So Zeno is the second strongest being in all of the multiverse. Like I said before, he has the power to destroy multiple universes at once, having already destroyed 6 before the story of Dragon Ball Super even started. Everyone who knows about him is actually terrified him due to this, and it doesn't help that his childlike demeanor making him destroy things with kind of the flip of a switch. The Omni King is so strong that he actually lacks any combat skills. He can just destroy anything he wants without the need to fight. So he actually probably can't fight, but he'll just destroy you. I mean, let's be honest. If you can just, just Hakai anything that you want to kill, what's the point in actually learning how to fight? Like, it's almost pointless. But like we said, he does act very childish, so possibly he has parents who do know how to fight, and he's just too young by their standards, even though he's probably millions of years old. But that's pretty much it, guys. That is a quick rundown of the hierarchy of the gods in Dragon Ball, but let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Did I miss anything? Did I not go over something you would rather me have gone over? I'd love to do a deep dive into each of these individual tiers on their own, but let me know in the comments down below which ones you guys would like to see first. And while you guys are down there, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. I'd really love to hit 1,000 subscribers before December, and as of recording this video, it is September, so we could definitely do it with your guys' help. So until next time, guys, I will see you in the next video.